When we think about national security, it's so easy to just picture soldiers on the ground, right? Or tanks rolling across a field. But the real cutting edge of modern defense, well, it's not always about what you can see. It's about the incredible, mind-blowing technology that powers everything from behind the scenes. So today, we're going to pry open that high-tech toolbox that nations use to build their shield. All right, so let's get right into it. What's actually in this toolkit? I mean, we're not talking about just one single gadget. It's more like this complex web of technologies, all designed to work together in perfect harmony. And honestly, if you can get your head around this toolkit, you're well on your way to understanding global strategy in the 21st century. So it really all boils down to three core pillars. First, you've got your platforms. Think of these as the vehicles, the tanks, the jets, the ships, the stuff that gets you to the fight. Then you have the munitions. These are the weapons themselves, the bullets, the bombs, and of course, the missiles. And then, and this part is absolutely crucial, you have something called C4ISR. It's a bit of a mouthful, but it stands for Command, Control, Communications, Computers, Intelligence, Surveillance, and Reconnaissance. Phew. Just think of it as the nervous system that connects everything. Literally everything, from a satellite way up in orbit to a commander on the ground. Today, we're going to zoom right in on one of the most critical munitions in that whole toolkit. Right. We are talking, of course, about missiles. But what really separates a simple, everyday rocket from a super sophisticated missile? I mean, they both fly through the air, right? Well, the difference is huge. It's basically the leap from just, throwing something to creating an intelligent weapon that can almost think for itself. It all comes down to one simple but game-changing word: guidance. A rocket is completely unguided. The best way to think about it is like a firework, right? Once you light the fuse, its path is totally fixed. It's just following the laws of physics. A missile, though, that's a different beast entirely. It's guided. It has a brain. It can actively track a target, make corrections to its course mid-flight, and home in with just incredible precision. That one little difference, it changes absolutely everything. Okay, so let's take a look at the anatomy of a missile. It looks complex, but it really boils down to four key parts. Up at the front, you've got the guidance system. That's the brain we were just talking about, telling it where to go using stuff like GPS or radar. Next up is the warhead. That's the payload, the part that actually does the damage. Then you need an engine, right? That's the propulsion system, the muscle that gets it to the target. And finally, the airframe is just the body that holds all of these pieces together. Every single missile, I don't care how advanced it is built around these four basic components. All right, now within this world of missiles, you've basically got two main families, ballistic and cruise. And I love this analogy. The best way to think about them is as the sledgehammer and the scalpel. One is all about overwhelming brute force power over massive distances. The other, it's all about precision, stealth, and surgical strikes. And this image just illustrates the difference perfectly. I mean, look at those flight paths. A ballistic missile gets launched on this massive, high-arching trajectory. It literally flies up into space before gravity pulls it back down onto its target. A cruise missile, on the other hand, does the complete opposite. It flies low, hugging the ground, trying to stay hidden from radar. It acts a lot more like a small, pilotless jet. Okay, this table really breaks down the nuts and bolts. And you can see the extremes here, right? A ballistic missile is really only guided during that first initial boost phase. After that, it's pretty much just a hunk of metal falling with style, governed by physics. But look at that speed on re-entry, Mach 20 or more. That's 20 times the speed of sound. Just insane. Now, the cruise missile is way slower, but here's the kicker. It's guided the entire flight. That's what makes it so incredibly accurate. See? Sledgehammer versus scalpel. Okay, so that's the theory. But let's see how this all applies in the real world. And for that, we're going to take a look at India's missile program. It's a really fascinating story about a nation's journey to build its own high-tech toolkit, pretty much from the ground up. The whole story really kicks off back in 1983. It started with something called the Integrated Guided Missile Development Program, the IGMDP for short, and it was spearheaded by the legendary Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam. This single program really laid the foundation for everything that came later. It led to the development of 5 core missile systems that covered, well, the whole shebang, from anti-tank weapons all the way up to strategic ballistic missiles. And from that foundational work came the ultimate sledgehammer, the Agni V. This is an intercontinental ballistic missile, an ICBM, and let me tell you, its development was a total game changer. It put India into a very, very exclusive global club. I mean, the sheer range is just staggering. Over 5,500 kilometers. That's intercontinental reach. We're not talking about a battlefield weapon anymore. This is a strategic one. It's the kind of technology that's designed to completely change the geopolitical math for any potential adversary. All right, so that's the sledgehammer. Now let's talk about the scalpel. This is the BrahMos. It's a product of a joint venture between India and Russia, and it is widely considered the fastest supersonic cruise missile on the planet. In its class, it is the undisputed king of speed. Mach 3. So what does that even mean? Well, it's nearly a kilometer every single second. Just try to wrap your head around that. At that kind of speed, an enemy has a ridiculously short amount of time to even see it coming, let alone try to track it and shoot it down. Its speed is its best defense, which is what makes it such an effective and, frankly, feared weapon. Okay, but what happens if all your missiles on land get taken out in a surprise attack? It's a scary thought, right? Well, that's where the silent service comes into play. We're talking about submarine-launched ballistic missiles, like India's K-series. They provide what's known as a second strike capability. Because these submarines are hidden deep under the ocean, they're basically the ultimate insurance policy. They guarantee that a nation can always strike back, no matter what. So, okay, we've looked at the tech, we've looked at the different types, and we've seen a real-world example. But let's zoom all the way out. Why does any of this complex, incredibly powerful technology really matter? What's the end game here? Ultimately, all of this technology serves one single overriding purpose: deterrence. The entire goal of building this powerful toolkit isn't just start a war. It's to make sure one never, ever happens. When you have a credible, survivable, and high-tech arsenal, you're sending a very clear signal to any potential attacker that the price of aggression would just be way too high. It's all about building a shield so strong that nobody in their right mind would even dare to test it. So we've come a long way, from simple, unguided rockets to intelligent, supersonic missiles. But the evolution doesn't stop. The next big frontier is hypersonic technology. We're talking about weapons that travel at over 5 times the speed of sound and can still maneuver. And that raises a really critical question for the future, doesn't it? As the weapons, the tools in the kit get faster and smarter, how does the shield adapt? What's going to be the next game-changing piece of tech in this high-stakes world of defense?